Instagram Atlantic TV Network, Twitter Atlantic TV Net. For sponsorship 0810 634 1777. ATN Icons celebrating the giants of our time.
Is a social commentator and lecturer with the Captain Elichi Amadi Polytechnic, Dr. Umweke Emmanuel Onyeka. So thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
So the first issues we're going to be dealing with today is bordering on domestic violence. There's been a recurrent trend in this issue, and I think it's time we talk about it. Wife apprehended for allegedly stabbing husband to death. A 20-year-old housewife, Caroline Baker, has been apprehended by the Adamawa State Police Command for allegedly stabbing her 38-year-old husband to death. Confirming the incident, the State Police Public Relations Officer, Suleiman Nguroje, said the Police Commissioner, Sikiru Akande, has ordered clinical investigations into the incident for proper prosecution, adding that the suspect engaged her husband in a fight for keeping late nights, which eventually led to his death. The suspect, who is a resident of Angwan Tamiya, Madagali local government area of the state, got into a row with her husband following his return from one of his late nights out since drunk. The wife was said to have disagreed with her husband on the day of the incident for failing to perform his responsibilities on their one-year-old baby. In the ensuing brawl, the suspect allegedly took their kitchen knife and used it to stab her husband. The man became unconscious after bleeding profusely and was later pronounced dead at the hospital, where he was rushed for medical attention. She told authorities during investigation that she was angered by his drunkenness, habitual late nights, and failure to provide basic necessities expected of a husband. The police revealed that the suspect is currently in the police custody at the Madagali Police Divisional Headquarters. This is coming days after a certain woman identified as Ife Olua allegedly set her husband Olutife ablaze for suspicion of infidelity. This brings to the fore the fact that men are also victims of domestic violence, and thus the need for engagements that can check this evil. So I appreciate the fact that you're a man and then you're going to be talking on this issue, so you're coming from the angle of a man. But looking at this trend, do you think there's any reason whatsoever why a man or a woman should take the life of their spouse?
Well, there is actually no reason why somebody should take the life of another. We are not allowed to take the life of any human. But before I go into domestic violence, there is something I want to bring to fore. There is something I want to talk about, which is the psychology of the nation, the mindset of the country. There is hardly any news you will hear. Other countries are talking about innovations, you know. You hear countries having natural disasters, like what is happening, the wildfire happening in Europe, and how they are handling it. You hear of so many areas in other countries where people are into so many stories that you can be fine to hear. But here in Nigeria, is every day you hear of violence. You hear people are kidnapped and not, rescued. You hear people are shot dead. You hear people are being killed in churches or even in mosque. So many stories of violence. It's gradually permeating into our individual and national character. That's what we have to establish. The atmosphere, the Nigerian atmosphere right now is very tense. And if it is also a country that is doing very well, it's also time we attach, what do you call it, psychologists to work with the politicians who are our leaders. And because, excuse me, there's also need to talk to these individuals, various units, beginning from the families, how to respond. I want to make a reference to what Zelensky's, the president of Ukraine, what the wife said about their son. I think below 13, a small boy that said that he wants to be a soldier. And she made a statement. She said she hopes the child recovers into his childhood very quickly. So what he said is not estimated of somebody of his age. And you know, those people are very conscious of their environment. And then they said she wished the child recovers quickly. So all of those things are seen as, you know, psychological element. But we don't take it like that here. But whether or not we take it, I want to say that it is permeating, it is penetrating into us gradually,
So you
as
think
individually.
this
That is
violence is a result of
yes,
psychological
the scope
support?
of violence around Nigerian country is affecting the way the people are reasoning, beginning to think. You see that domestic violence, the reports of domestic violence have increased, you know, over recent times. It has increased. We heard of so many other ones have been reported, including these ones now. So the people are thinking gradually that maybe the way to go is violence. The way to go is violence. Otherwise, we have our traditional methods of resolving marital conflicts through the family methods, you know. So if your husband consistently does not show interest in you, there are methods you report to your people who will now call the man to order or both parties to order. My daughter has been complaining of so, so, and so. Is it that you are no longer interested in her? If you are not interested, what is the problem? Can it be resolved? Instead of the woman outrightly taking arms and then killing another individual. Now, it's reported that they have a 1-year-old child. Yeah. So what will be the fate of the child? And probably the child may have seen where mom was mothering dad, and he will grow with it. He will think that is the way to go. If anybody annoys him any day, he might look for an instrument such as his mom and retaliate in that way. So it's something that we really need to look into. It's something that we really need to, reorganize our psyche, because the way it is going, everybody taking the way of violence is not going to help us. So, and again, one other provisions allowed for women is if you marry properly. Marrying properly is that you marry through the legal process. If it is not working, you approach the courts of law and ask for dissolution of the marriage. It is not, you have to live first before marriage. So if it is not, the man is violent or the woman is violent, you legally walk away instead of engaging in battering or even in this extreme case, killing the individual. When you do all these things, some of even the ones, the religious singer that was killed, allegedly killed, I mean, the judgment has not been passed. So you see, those people have children, and what is the psychology of the children? What are they going to become in the future? Who will manage them? So when you look at these factors of the future, you will now look at so many ways to resolve immediately or quickly or walk away in the case where life is threatened. So it is important to
Do you
take
also
note.
think that attention should be paid to people's behaviors in their marriages? Couples, how they relate with each other, their attitudes, their doings, and their actions and inactions.
Now, if we look at, there's what is called background indexing.
Yeah.
If you look at those, you see, what people call husband and wife is not an emergency thing. Is you have to become a wife. It's a process. You are built over the years. The boy you allow yourself to become is possibly going to be the man you will become in the marriage. So many young persons are violent. They feel that the only way to get redress, to get justice, is to retaliate, and in some cases disproportionately. You know, so that is why we are saying that this violence is not helping us, because the young ones are supposed to learn from the older ones. The younger ones are supposed to learn from the older ones. So a situation where the older ones are very violent, you know, the younger ones are not learning. Older, I mean parents. So you batter your wife or vice versa before the children. They grow with it. They grow with it. Some of them will go to the point of becoming bandits. Some of them will grow to the point of becoming terrorists or any other name associated with violence. So the way to go is you learn the behavior. Children should be taught how to behave. Marriage is relationship. The only difference between that I know you, you know me, and marriage, it may be possibly the sexual intimacy. Otherwise, it's still manner, the way you relate to the other person. If somebody offends you or you offend somebody, what is normal in a relationship is, oh, please, I'm sorry. How many children have learned how to say, oh, please, the language, please, thank you, oh, I'm sorry, I'm afraid. You understand? Such languages should be taught people early enough. Because if once it is taught them and they grow with it, it becomes part of them as adults. So a situation where people think that you can learn being a husband or a wife at adulthood, it will be very bad. It will make a good experience.
So why people are growing up, they should learn to be
Yeah,
wives even while they are still girls.
yeah.
Okay, I think I like that one. We'll just move away from that and look at an insecurity. Anambra community bans youth activities, indiscriminate sales of land. The President General of Inteje Community in Oyi local government area of Anambra State, Mr. Chidiebele Obika, has announced a ban on youth activities and indiscriminate sale of land as a way of curbing restiveness and insecurity within the area. Obika stated this over the weekend during a meeting of the combined groups in the community, including the Inteje Development Union, the women's group, and custodians of the community's culture and tradition. Obika, who was recently made the caretaker chairman while addressing the gathering, said, "We are pained by the state of insecurity in Inteje community today, and we have gathered here to take steps to correct some of the things that have been causing it. Recently, soldiers invaded a community with the excuse of looking for criminals and called unknown gunmen, and about 6 youths were said to have been killed. One thing I'm sure is that our youths are not members of IPOP or ASN, but we know that we have restive youths, and we are taking steps to curb them. That is why we have resolved that from today, all youth activities in the community have been abolished and all youth leadership disbanded. It is in the guise of being youth leaders that some people have become terror onto the community, and that must stop. When we are ready to hold elections for youth groups, we will announce it and the people will elect their leaders, not one person standing up and arrogating leadership to themselves. Also, indiscriminate sales of land have caused our youths to be lazy, but to rely only on sales of land as income. This has caused most of our land to be sold away by people illegally. From today, anyone wishing to sell land must inform their families, and they in turn will inform Ojiana, as the custodians of tradition, who will now inform the community leadership. Same for everyone wishing to buy land in Intije, he said. Well, I think I appreciate the second part of the ban, but first of all, let's look at the ban on youth activities. Well, he said that it is a major cause for violence and other form of criminality in the community. Do you totally agree with that?
Now, before it snowballed into that state it is, that's a very dangerous state before they start banning them. What actions, have the elders taken? What are those youths doing? How have they encouraged their parents to get them acquire skills? What are they doing presently? Because if the energies the young persons have are allowed redundant, they will have to redirect it into areas that are foul, and which is one of the reasons why we are passing to what we are passing to today. The energies of our young persons are misdirected. So when you are not just a custodian when there is problem, you have to make sure that the culture of the people is sustained. So the traditional leaders should sustain our cultural conducts. Before Nigeria started what we now call Western education, we had African education system, Nigeria education system, where major role, although the major content of the curriculum was morality, which has to do with the older women teaching the younger ones how to behave. Why the older ones, we take the teenagers, that is those from 13 and above, we take them to the trade which the father does. So you train them on that regard. So now it is no longer in that form. What we now have is people, either you take to artisanship or you go to school, that is, or you learn a trade, which is business. Now, it is also behooving on those traditional holders that at the point you see a particular child in the community not doing anything, you summon the parents. I understand, I've read the culture. There is no part of Nigeria that doesn't hold that culture. So you call, you manage your youth, you manage your energies. So have they done that? How have they directed the energies of these young persons until this escalated point? So it becomes a point where it becomes very dangerous to manage. One point is they are trying to stop it. We are looking at preventive measures, how you allow conduct to be directed in the right paths, how you do not allow people to behave in a manner that is dangerous to the society. So now, at this point that this has happened, you are banning, who are they going to comply? You have seen these very arrogant young persons beating up traditional rulers, yes, even killing them. So how are they going to comply? So I also think that they should deploy the tool of communication, engage them, find out what the problem is. Those days, see, I have issues with these traditional office holders, so, because our culture is quickly eroding. Those days, we used to have what we call communal upbringing of children,
Yeah.
where if you now misbehave in a certain manner, the community can even come together to disown you. And again, that is over after several warnings. Even though I was not born then, we read stories. We know how it all used to happen. Now, you also find out a situation where if a child is doing well in school or any trade, people come together and sponsor such an individual. Do communities now, do they have such funds?
But you also agree that with development and civilizations and some of these cultures are being gradually eroded, they are beginning to fade away, sort of. And you don't expect, okay, currently, right now, most families, if you see a child or a youth misbehaving in the society and then you want to scold the person, the mom will probably like, oh, please, don't talk to my child in that manner. And this makes people want to mind their businesses. So in this era, I think we have more people minding their business.
No, it is not correct. If you say that, if for instance a mom talks to another child in a way that is intended to correct that child, and then this other mother takes offense, one, it will be that maybe this other person, mother that was trying to correct the child was probably violent or not respecting the child. Otherwise, there's nothing wrong in that. If you see another person's child misbehaving, the right thing to do is to call the mother or the parents. You say, look at, I saw your child doing this. You are not just showing that you are an adult. You are doing the society a lot of good. Because what you are correcting might be what will send us into the bush, running for safety in the nearest future. So let me go back to the issue of tradition. Now, we cannot say tradition has taken over our Western, our way of life, right? But we still have chiefs, traditional office holders. What do they do there? What do they do? You just go and find out. What do they? Their function is to make sure that there is a cultural transmission to the new generation or to the generation to come. Do they tell the people? Do they still tell the moonlight stories? Right? Do they tell stories? Most of them are educated. How many books have they written about their place? How it used to be? How many times have they gone to TVs like this and do stories? Yes, you create a platform where you tell the people stories. This is how it is done in my area. This is how people are. These are things that constitute taboos. Most of what the people call taboos in our traditional institutions does not in any way in attacking manner with a Western conduct. It does not. So how do you project our image? How do you project the culture? Are they doing all that? So it is not at the point that the thing has gone beyond handling. They will now begin to handle it. At that point, they will still have problems. You still use the traditional method. You go to talk to the people and the youths. Okay, come, let's talk this over. What led to this? Why are you people? There have been cases where, okay, last time your uncle told us that he sold this portion of land and gave you to go and start a business. Did you do that? Some of these youths do not have all of these things. They don't. Some of these ones that are saying banning youth and all that, it has to be investigated, because sometimes if the elders too are interested in a certain portion of land, they quickly go and ban the youth, look for a way to cow them. This is the corruption in the system. So these ones too have to, I'm not saying that what the youth are doing is, but I'm trying to balance the story. So you have to actually investigate which side it is. And these people have to do their work. You cannot just call a dog a bad name in the name of killing it. Find out what is actually wrong. What is the remote cause of the conduct? Did you play your own role as a traditional person, a ruler? Did you play your own role from day one? Did you tell the parents to make sure that they play their role? Did you engage government? Who are supposed to engage these youth meaningfully? These are the questions we are asking. So all of them are in it together. Yeah.
Now, talking about the lands, now, his reason, or rather their reason for banning this indiscriminate sales of land is because it has made their youths lazy. They no longer want to hustle kind of to get money. They just know that, okay, there's a piece of land over there and we'll just sell it and get our money. Don't you think from that light, to an extent, that that decision might be right?
You cannot stop an adult. I don't know that if there is any, they will go to court. If it is your father's land, how he uses the money is not the other person's father's business. If your father bequeathed a portion of land for you, it is not for you, the other person, to begin to say that the way you are selling this land and the way you are using the money, except that using the money to front issues of violence, to sponsor violence. Otherwise, if you see that these persons, it is their property, maybe their inheritance by nativity, you do not have that right to stop them. These are the areas we have to look at.
He's not actually stopping them totally, but he's saying if you want to sell, you have to involve your family. Your family will involve the custodians, and then they come to the community.
I agree with them. Who are these family members? There are some families that is remaining one person. I hope you know. There are families that have one child, one son. And Igbo land, the women do not own lands. If your father had you, they have to define what they mean by family. Is it the entire community or the immediate family, the lineage of your father? If in my family, I am the first son and I have all younger sisters as females, right? By the customs of the land, I am the owner, rightful owner of my father's land. So if I now decide to sell my father's land, I've sold the first portion, and I'm done using the money, I want to sell the other one. Does he have the right, are you getting what I'm saying, to come and impose on me not to sell further? These are because tradition should not impose, should not supersede the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. These are things they have to consider before placing bans.
Now this land issue, well, we'll just go on a short break and we'll come back, we'll continue.
Meet the people making the difference in our time on ATN Icons. Here, we present you legends celebrated for their heroism in different fields and serve as role models today. ATN Icons, showing every Sunday 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Atlantic Television Network, StarTimes DTH channel 194, ATN Live on Google App Store, Facebook Atlantic Television Network, YouTube Atlantic Television Network, Instagram Atlantic TV Network, Twitter Atlantic TV Net. For sponsorship 0810 634 1777. ATN Icons, celebrating the giants of our time.
The people, the country.
Welcome back. In case you're just joining us, this is Society Watch on Atlantic Television Network. And before we went on that break, we were talking about the decision of the NTJ community of Anambra State to ban youth activities and the indiscriminate sales of land. So, sir, coming back to you, you talked about the fact that this is more like trying to infringe on the people's rights to the ownership of their lands. But then, let's look at the fact that they have said that this is making the youth restive. It's making them lazy. They just want to depend on the proceeds from the sales of land. Nobody wants to come up with innovations. Nobody wants to come up with things that would make them have money outside the sales of land. So it's more like a regulation. It's more like a check so that, hey, go back and think, come up with ideas, do businesses, do tangible things that will give you money and not just depending on lands. If we actually continue selling lands every day, someday, these families, if everyone depends on the sales of land, they probably run out of land. Don't you think so?
No, the point is that we're only getting the perspective of the elders. Yeah. We've not heard from the youths. So there is no law that allows somebody to ban another from selling his land. They will go to court. That's what I'm foreseeing. But if you say that they are squandering, what do you mean by squander? Because squander could be subjective. Yeah. Spending money is idiosyncratic. It depends on the individual. I have some money now, and then I use it to buy a upholstery. That's what I want. You have your own money, you use it to, what you call investment. You invest, 2 years later, it is caught fire everywhere. The investment is gone. My upholstery is still there. I have resold it. So even investment, how do you not define it? So what we are saying is that it has to be put in proper perspective. The land you are banning, is it your own? Traditional office holders have their own land. Families have their own. Is it in agreement with all the family members that will no longer sell land because our children are selling it and not using it for what is proper? Do you understand? So, and like I've also established, these children, these youths that are selling these lands and using it for what they are now regarding as frivolous expenditure or whatever it is, how were they managing to adulthood before, when they were young, when they were teenagers? What attention did these traditional office holders note to these families? This child is growing. What is your handwork? Like they used to do those days. Now you find that some chiefs will say, please, I don't want this. At about 10 to 12, you see young persons gathering together. Children of your mates are going to school, you sit down in one place. And if anything misses, they go look for you. You didn't go to school today. So it's you that we are talking about. So over time, you identify such children. And the people, the traditional, the custodians of the native laws will call the people together and say, this person's son or this person's child is not doing well. He's not going to where others go to in the morning hours. What is the problem? Did they start it that way? So if you are imposing, maybe what they are even calling about, if a child is not trained at certain point, I mentioned it here offline, he wants to be like others at certain age. Could it be that this child doesn't have a skill, this youth doesn't have a skill, he doesn't have a trade he's doing, and at this point his mates are getting married, his mates are building houses, and he wants to sell his land and build a house and settle down like others are doing. So let's define, we have not heard from the youth, that's my own perspective. So this is one-sided.
But then, I'm also looking at the fact that, okay, you're trying to stop youth activities and then indiscriminate sales of land. Don't you think the government should, knowing fully well that they are trying to usefully engage, don't you think they should make provisions that would support the youth?
This release does not show that there is another alternative. It shows that it's been banned. And when you say youth activities, does it include cooperative societies? Some of these are in some groups that they are putting up together to go and meet, maybe a prospective government or government that is in power. If you are stopping it, so what right do you also have to stop assembly that is legal? Because from what they also reported there, they said that the youths, though they could be restive, but they are not involved in notorious unions. So if you have established that, you also have to find out what these youth groups, what are they geared to? What do they do? What do these meet to engage in? What is their objective? So these are the things they have to find out before you say you are banning the youth body.
All right, thank you very much. We'll just move away from that and look at an issue bordering an ASU strike. Federal University Students' Union presidents to storm Abuja in protest. The Council of Students' Union Presidents, CSUP, has revealed that its members will be storming the Federal Capital Territory for a peaceful protest if the ongoing strike by the Academic Staff Union of Universities is called off. The organization, made up of the Students' Union presidents across federal universities in Nigeria, had in a letter to the Minister of Education Adamu dated 19 July 2022, gave the federal government 7 days ultimatum to resolve the disagreement with ASU. In an interview with newsmen, the CSUP convener Shuaib Yahaya said the students leaders have resolved not to compromise on the decision to embark on the planned protest. He said if the federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities do not reach to resolve after the 7 days, we are going to carry out a mass action that will involve all SGG presidents in Nigeria, and we will be converging at Abuja, and we continue to demonstrate peacefully until the strike is called off. Over time, whenever we delegate certain persons for the interests of others, they compromise. We are not working with any delegation as we are concerned. There is a statement that an idle hand is the devil's workshop. So many of our students have adopted the act of illegal activities because they are at home doing nothing. The strike has succeeded at increasing the level of internet fraud. Personally, I am supposed to have graduated by now, which would have been done a month ago. But here I am. I am still waiting on ASU to call off strike before we can go on. The strike can also reduce the level of interest for education. If a student sits at home doing nothing, he or she begins to think otherwise. And this otherwise starts working, then you should be sure that the interest of such a person would definitely be reduced. What we are after as students is that the federal government and ASU should reach a resolution. In every negotiation table, there is always a space that both parties will have to have a compromise on a particular aspect of that negotiation. I think earlier last week I was talking to someone and then he said he's bothered about the fact that the student bodies haven't taken this seriously as they ought to have done. But now we have them coming out to say they have given the government a 7-day ultimatum from the 19th, and if by the end of that they are going to stage a protest to Abuja and continue until the strike is called off. What would you say?
I hope they don't shoot them. You know, I hope they don't kill them. Do you remember the answers? It was widespread suspicion. The government later denied that they did not kill them, that there were no military gunfire directed at unarmed civilians. But we know that people died. So they told us that mysterious soldiers shot visible people. You heard that? So we hope that some invisible guns, bullets, will not kill our
don't
students.
you think they would have come up long before now? I mean, this strike is over.
There was a
5
time
months.
they went to meet this minister now. Have you forgotten that he walked out of them?
And they stopped. I mean, they would have continued.
From who now? The man went off the scene. We don't know their plan now. This particular regime, we have called it regime because it doesn't look like the people elected them. They are aloof, far away from the people. So that's why I'm advising the young ones. Well, they should not, my own, no, they might kill, they are not saying that government killed the last people, but mysterious gun, bullet, killed some NSAS protesters. So let's not see a situation where mysterious bullets. You just see that people will be seeing bullets. You know, people will be falling and dying. You know, that's the kind of thing we see in Nigeria. So my advice is that if there is no advice, so as it is right now, this government should know that education is a priority. You cannot tell me they are all adults, that if you have a child, the child is at home. Maybe a minister, your child is at home for 1 week. 1 week. And you will even be comfortable in the office. One, maybe you are not able to pay the school fees. Now, it's not even school fees or holiday that these people are on strike because they have a government that is not responding to their needs, a government that is not talking to them. I don't know if I get what I'm saying. So I think that is intentional. That's why I'm careful to urge the students' body to go. Let them stop at the media level. To be alive, because I believe that everything there is doesn't last forever.
Of course. Now, just like Dave said, for every conflict, there's always a ground for compromise. Do you think we are going to get to that point that
Compromise with which people now?
The government on the side of
No,
us?
you have seen what looks like propaganda. You have seen where, what do you call him? The Minister of Education will say a different thing. The Labour, Minister of Labour. In the first place, is it the Minister of Labour that is supposed to be talking with the educators? The man that is Minister of Education is supposed to be on ground to interpret even what the ASU is saying to the populace. But he's not there. Sometimes he goes there if he's angered. If maybe ASU doesn't say what he likes, he walks out of them. It's very unfortunate. So what we are saying is that we can only stay in the media and urge them to resign. Of course, it's impossible for them to resign. Please don't resign. Let it be that somebody is saying that, please resign. No. Do you understand it? So the thing is that these men are grossly, do I say, they are bizarre, they are strange, they are unpatriotic.
Well, I don't think you can just say that totally, because understanding the fact that you know, they say on easy lies ahead the words.
No.
And these people have a whole lot they are trying to meet at the same time.
That doesn't include brushing your teeth in the morning before going out now. Education is a bedrock. So this, and what I'm telling you is that there is something wrong somewhere that these people have not told us. Otherwise, why will a sitting minister still sit as he's been on strike for 6 months.
Well,
And
he's taking over
trust me,
administration now, so let's watch out and see what comes up.
trust me, this man is very unfortunate. You hear that they borrow money. They borrow 70% of our annual earnings go into servicing debt. Does it show we are normal? Now the monies they borrowed, what did they use it for? Education is gone, moribund. Then is it health? Even they themselves attest to the fact that our health system here cannot go anywhere. So they travel abroad to go and take medical services.
The vice president had his surgery here in Nigeria.
That is one out of so many now. Probably it's possible. We don't know the extent of his accident. Is it possible that they had estimated by taking him down there? I don't know. But it's just one out of so many now.
It's quite encouraging.
So we hope he remains here. After the surgery, he should stay there and then they suit the wound properly. We hope he doesn't fly away.
Of course.
So let's hope that he doesn't fly away. So what we are saying is that these men don't mean well for Nigeria. Even they themselves, from their conduct, are saying it. How will you now, what excuse will you have? We are not ASU. They are human beings. If they had a sensible discussion from the part of government, I say, okay, please, out of these things you are asking for, we have disbursed even 45%. And we have shown a sincere commitment. Every month, this is what we are going to do. Okay, ASU has stayed for 6 months just to prove. ASU, we have disbursed initial 45% of all your total need. Didn't you see last month we promised that we are going to give you another 5%?
The payments of the arrears.
Which arrears? There are so many things. ASU.
So you're talking about starting something. They started actually.
They've started paying. They've started paying which arrears? They are so. See, if you look at that list, it's a whole long list. Yeah. So if out of 14 points in a strike, you have done 2. You've not done up to 50% to begin to ask for a call-off. And this is just like a pinch. So what we are saying is that they should take the country like patriotically. They should rule as if they will not run away after being in leadership.
Okay, so let's just move away from that and look at our last issue on insecurity. Reactions trail bandits' threats to kidnap Buhari El-Rufai. The terrorists who are responsible for the Abuja Kaduna train attack and abductors of the victims have released a fresh video showing how they were flogging some of the remaining abductees and threatening to kidnap the president, Muhammadu Buhari, and the Kaduna State Governor, Nasir El-Rufai. Reacting to the threat, a socio-political activist, Reno Omokri, in a post on his official Facebook page, wrote, "Why are these bandits threatening to abduct Buhari and El-Rufai? I'm not sure Nigerians consider that a threat. To many Nigerians, that would be a relief. Buhari that met dollar at 190 naira and today it is 650 naira. Abducting him is like abducting Nigerians' problem. Bandits threatening to abduct Buhari and El-Rufai is just like Pablo Escobar's drug cartel threatening to abduct Bola Tinubu. What concerns the rest of us? What heroin and terrorism has joined together? Who are Nigerians to put it asunder? I beg, leave us, Jerry." Now also, an international human rights activist and environmentalist, Ahaji Musa Saidu, made an appeal urging the Chief of Defense Staff, CDS General Lucky Rabo, to act swiftly in collaboration with the various service chiefs to release the hostages still in the custody of their kidnappers. They should go and rescue the hostages to avoid international embarrassment. The video is a huge minus for the image of the country. They should go quickly to rescue the people in 3 days or so that they can bring respect to the president. Also, the presidency, in a statement issued by the senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Malam Garba Shehu, said terrorists actively using propaganda and the use of violence to force governments to accept or submit to political demands is not new all over the world. The country's security and defense forces are not clueless or helpless. They have their plans and ways of doing things which they will not display in the media. The dilemmas in dealing with the specific case of trained terrorists are manifold. Punitive action like the popular call for carpet bombing of the known locations may assuage the desire of an angry public for revenge. But what about the hostages? To help the nation against ongoing situation, the media must increase their support for the fight against the exploitation of the internet and social media for terrorist purposes. First of all, let's look at the fact that this terrorist have released a video flogging the remaining victims of the Abuja Kaduna train attack, which they abducted, and also threatened to abduct the president. Now, I'd like to look at it from the standpoint of the human rights activists, who said that it is time for the CDS to ensure that they swing into action. I mean, according to him, said that video is a minus to the image of the country on the international scene. What do you think?
Well, I don't want to do the part of Mr. Reno. You know, it's, yes, it's very ridiculous. And if you also look at what the international commentator had to say, you observe that it's ridiculous for a country's president to be threatened to be kidnapped. I don't think there has been such thing. I've not heard. Even Sri Lanka president, the people that had to surge into the presidential place did not threaten to kidnap the president. So the president was whisked away. He was taken away safely. And then somebody else emerged as the leader of the country. The point there is that the president and his entourage has allowed this to linger for too long. And that is the angle we have to say that the president should have acted very promptly. If you allow a thing that starts, it's small, it blossoms, and at some point it gets to a maximum unit, you now find it difficult to contain it. So the government should have taken drastic effort. They should have made melodramatic efforts to ensure that this terrorist attack are nipped in the bud. But here we are, we didn't do that. We don't know. What I've suggested at this point is that we should do more of international collaboration. We should get technology. We should get technology to fight this threat, to find their base. Is it impossible? That's why I'm talking about international collaboration. It will help us get into the root of who are their sponsors. If we get who the sponsor, the source of their strength, it will be easier for us to quell, we are in the dark, who the sponsors are. It will be very difficult for you to put a stop to it. Another way we can, even if we cannot outrightly get the international presence, we can get a technology transfer, and then we'll give it back to them. So that is the way to go.
All right, thank you very much. I think this is a wake-up call to the security operatives. This is actually a threat, a national threat, and there are strategies in place, and we don't want to disclose it until the deal is done. But we just want to trust that at the end of the day, we'll have some very good results. Once again, thank you, sir, for being here.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And thank you, our viewers, for being out there. We hope that you join us again tomorrow for another interesting time. I am Anita Ovari. You can follow us on our social media handles, Twitter at Atlantic TVNet. Do remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress.
Yeah.
difference in our time on ATN Icons. Here, we present you legends celebrated for their heroism in different fields and serve as role models today. ATN Icons, showing every Sunday 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Atlantic Television Network, StarTimes DTH channel 194, ATN Live on Google App Store, Facebook Atlantic Television Network, YouTube Atlantic Television Network, Instagram Atlantic TV Network, Twitter Atlantic TV Net. For sponsorship 0810 634 177.